morning. Good morning. It's Brian and Fearless back with another episode of Trial and Error. We're wrapping up our conversation that we started last week about basically, and the way I keep phrasing it, you guys keep saying it, different ways they're playing us, like the 10 red flag patterns of distraction and manipulation. And we're talking about from the multimedia standpoint, talking about how it is on social media, news media, and all this other stuff. And really having those conversations. So before we get into that stuff, let's talk at top of the show. If you're seeing this and you like what we're talking about and you're kind of vibing to what we're saying, go ahead and give us a follow, subscribe, like, whatever. If there's topics you want us to discuss on here, drop them in the chat and we'll have those conversations too. Fearless, why don't you tell them some things that you're working on outside of this that they can come get at you about?
Right now, I mean, besides the coaching or whatever, I have decided. I was just talking to Brian to spend my next 10-year plan is to go back to school to become a therapist. So like that's what I'm working on at this present moment in time, and just kind of doing that. And then in the meantime, in between time, man, just still obviously doing my coaching work and whatever, and reading as much as I possibly can. So that's kind of my thing for right now.
Yep. And Fearless was doing his best to try to encourage me to go back to school. I'm at a point where I'm just figuring out what approach. I'm probably going to go back and get a certification in cybersecurity. I may revisit the therapy side of things because that was my life before. A lot of my life was working directly with kids and families, and actually, I used to joke with people like my experience allowed me to be in a position where I was hiring and firing people that were working on their doctorates and stuff, which was true. Like that's what I was doing. And so I'd get kids coming in who had finished out their masters working on doctorates and stuff. And so I allowed them to get the practical experience working hands-on with kids in a residential capacity. But what I got going on is I'm going to be launching here in the next couple of days. I'm actually recording some content about it when we get done. My content to cash machine. And basically it's teaching business owners how to get started recording yourself. And we'll start with the absolute bare basics, from picking the right gear, lighting, picking the right platform and stuff. And then we'll go all the way through to messaging and everything. And so that's something that I'm going to be launching. I'm going to be doing it in a community setting, but I'm also going to be taking some one-on-one clients for people that don't necessarily want to be in community with each other. I'd strongly advise the community side of it just because you can get feedback from multiple people, and you can almost beta test offers. And ideally, once we get big enough, I mean, some of your offers, you may even have community members that want to pick up on those offers. So you never know. So that's kind of what I'm working on. And so I'm recording a lot of content for the content to cash engine, just because I feel like business owners see the content creation thing from the lens of the way these influencers do it. And then that's not necessarily the way that you drive business. So that's what I got going on. Last week, I think we talked about the different ways they're playing you. So I think we ended on emergency language. And so maybe we'll start, like, I think we talked about emergency language. So I almost feel like let's start here and then let's just work all the way through. Okay. So when we talk about emergency language, we used to call it catastrophizing, right? Like where you take something that is really not a big deal, or it's something that's outside of anybody's control, but you want to make an issue to either distract people or inflame them. And so you wrap emergency language around it. The most recent one I can think of, and people aren't gonna like this. The word invasion comes to mind. The word invasion comes to mind. And so when I sit there, when you hear that word invasion, instantly you see, those others coming in to take what's yours, like pirates, like roving land pirates coming in. Really the invasion is, we got into the geopolitical side of things and destabilized a whole chunk of South America. and started playing the kingmaker game, where we're going to put puppets in different positions and further destabilize the region because we have interest down there. We have money interest down there. And so the invasion is just kind of a natural and logical consequence of us playing around and destabilizing people's governments. When you destabilize people's governments, what do you think happens to the people?
Mhm.
When you destabilize, like, we think our inflation is bad. Venezuela's inflation is so insane that even people that have money are looking at the exit, because the cost of living is inflated to the point where we're talking about 7-8 times what it used to be.
Hmm.
So, um, but the word invasion is useful because it inflames a very primal part of somebody's brain. We got to talk about that. Like, we got to talk about it. Like, these words touch on a very primal part of somebody's brain. Like, I have to protect. And then you ask them against what? And they're like, what do you mean against what? Well, the invasion's coming. Okay, so how does that affect you? So that's
Right.
an example of utilizing that kind of inflammatory language. We see it in more mundane things like, I'm a marketer. So when we put in those call to action, sometimes a marketer will absolutely say, hey, we have a limited supply of X, Y, and Z, when there is no limited supply of anything. I often warn junior marketers against that. Like, don't say that there's limited supply if there's really not, because people as bullshit detectors will sniff it out. But you see it in marketing all the time. Um, um, Black Friday is completely built on this premise. Black Friday is completely built on inflammatory danger kind of language. Like, you're going to miss out. You're playing on somebody's fear of missing out.
Yeah.
The crypto, and I'm a crypto guy. The crypto thing, that is built on FOMO. When you get on the more meme coin side of things, a lot of it is built on, I don't want to miss out on this thing. So, Fearless, where do you see this kind of emergency language coming out?
So, did you ever hear about Iraqi dinars?
No. Well, tell me
So,
about it. I may have heard about it.
okay, so what year are we in? So about 13, actually been about 15 years ago, Iraq was destabilizing this and the other, and they were going to be reevaluating their dollar,
Hmm.
right?
Oh, okay.
And so what happened was is that a bunch of people just started buying Iraqi dinars, which Iraqi dinar is nothing more than just their dollar, their money.
Okay.
And you had millions of Americans buying Iraqi dinars. Now you have people from all over buying their dollars, right? So you get them, and as soon as it reevaluates, you can actually go in and exchange that money for real money. So if you had $10 or whatever in there, Iraqi dinar said that, well, this money is going to equate to $15 for every $10 that you put in. So that's, you know what I'm saying? It's going to give you a percentage on that. People are still buying Iraqi dinars today. And one of the things that, and I got caught up into that too because I didn't know. So I bought $100,000 worth of Iraqi dinar. I forgot exactly how much money I spent on it. But at the end of the day, you want to know what it was worth?
What?
Nothing.
Yeah.
It wasn't worth anything. And so I bought onto this premise that I understood, but I didn't understand. Because I met this random guy at Fuddruckers one day, and I was talking to him about Iraq and their money and this and the other. And he said, "Let me ask you a question, young man." He said, "Why do they need to reevaluate their money? Why do they need to restructure their money?
Hmm.
Nobody cares." And as soon as he said that, like, I don't, for some reason, this red light, this red flag started popping up in my head. Like, he's right. Why would anybody care? And still to this day, they're still talking about, oh my God, any minute. And that's how they would do it. They would be like, any minute now, any moment now, they're going to be doing this and the other. So they were basically riling up everybody to go buy more, go buy more, go buy more. And there was a couple people who lost their lives doing that because they were rushing to go get more Iraqi dinar, and
Mhm.
then ended up in car accidents and died. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And again, they never evaluated their stuff.
Well,
So, and so again, that's kind of what it is with that emergency language. Like, man, this is what they're doing. This is what's going on. So, and so one of the things that I started doing was I like seriously, I shut that shit off. I stopped watching it.
mhm.
I don't. I'll listen to it every so often if it comes into my purview, but I don't really step out into that precipice to go see exactly what's going on. I'm not trying to peek around any corners because I don't give a shit. I don't care.
Right.
Like whatever y'all do is what you do. Hey, if you strike a rich by buying their stuff, perfect, wonderful. Just like everybody was trying to do a GameStop. I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna make all this money or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, you got into the fluke,
Mhm.
right? Perfect. I bet your ass won't do it again.
Well,
You know what I'm saying? So no, no.
there's still guys that are still holding on to the GameStop thing. Um, Actually, if you want a good resource to see that, Folding Ideas did an entire, like, that's one of his magnum opus level of videos where it's almost 3 hours talking about get the people trying to short squeeze,
Short squeezing. Yeah, that's what it
short
was.
squeeze, all these hedge funds. They're trying to do it, um, you know, by holding on to basically useless stock like GameStop, Bed Bath and Beyond, AMC, um, you know, and talking about some of the psychological things that are going on with it, where it's not necessarily realistic. And when you hear how inflamed some of the guys are who are still participating in it, it's almost kind of disturbing,
Hmm.
because had they had created this entire reality where, by holding on to GameStop, essentially what they were going to do is they're going to ransom the entire financial market of the United States of America, by holding games. Like, it was a strong delusion where they said, well, they're going to have to pay out if we hold on to this, and if they try to buy GameStop and we hold on to it, and automatically restrict supply, um, they're going to have to pay us. They're going to get their margin calls and all kinds of other stuff. We're going to have to get paid off of this. And there's like, and it doesn't matter if the stock is, if it's 1 million or 2 million or 10 million per share, they're going to have to pay us. And if they don't, then what, we're going to collapse the entire economic system in the United States. You think that's going to happen? You think that's how that's going to work? And so, yeah, it's a cult of personality behind it. And they talked about, the guy who kind of stumbled upon it, it was completely by accident, but they
Right.
turned him into this mythical figure about, his intuition and stuff, to the point where, I think he accidentally typed M into Twitter, and instantly that became there. He's sending us secret messages, where all he was doing, he accidentally butt dialed something on Twitter. And
Oh
so
wow.
it created this entire cult of personality, and a lot of people are getting burned. I don't know if the game stocks or GameStop thing is still running, but a lot of people were holding on to that, and AMC. We're going to hold on to it to the ground, even though GameStop isn't necessarily a viable thing. It's still inflated,
Right.
but I mean, I've done stocks long enough to know that you don't chase a rocket ship.
Hmm.
And so, it was one of those isolated things. A lot of things lined up during the pandemic that went really, really weird. The stock market was literally doing things that people had never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, it created a bunch of perfect environments and perfect storms for people to make a lot of money. And people are still chasing that dragon.
Hmm.
So, Folding Ideas has an entire, I think it's The Line Goes Up, where he talks about how that, I think that's what it was. But if you ever want a great documentary about it, go check it out, because
And what is it called?
it's called Folding Ideas. I'm actually pulling it up. Folding ideas, and I think it's either the line goes up or this is financial advice. One of the two. Because he's making fun of the idea that where people say this is not financial advice. And he's like, no, this is this is financial advice. And basically he talks about the economics of short selling. Yep, that's what it is. This is financial advice. He talks about the entire structure of short selling and a lot of the mind state stuff that the head the delusions that people are operating under. So I'm gonna drop it in the comments if people want to check it out. I recommend it. It's one of those that's going to be a multi-view thing. So you're gonna have to watch it. You're not gonna be able to sit down and watch this in one shot more times than not.
Okay.
So anyway, yep, that posted. So let's go ahead. Let me get back to my thing here.
Okay, so one of the things I wanted to kind of talk about too, in this is, again, some of the language that people use or whatever, like we talked about before, the existentialism, the catastrophic, the threat to democracy, the left is horrible, the left is this, the right is that, this and the other or whatever. So, but again, like you said before, is that they're not really telling you anything. They're not really saying much of it. They keep saying they keep messing with this. They keep messing with this. Okay, well, what specifically are they doing to you directly, right? And as I said, there's this article I think that the Wall Street Journal had today. Let me see if I can find it, because I thought it was a really good article, actually. Let me see if I can. Excuse me, it was a Huffington Post.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about in the Huffington Post, they were talking about how I wanna make sure that I get this right. Therapists warn that this normalized Trump behavior is causing real world harm. And then the subtitle is, people often look up to the president, and in this case, that's clearly a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And again, what that does is, I think that it shows us that Obama made a person think, what can I strive to be? Mm-hmm. This is what's possible. This is what I can strive to be. George Bush made it seem like, and again, this is just from my purview, somebody else may feel differently, that if you got enough money, you can do this, you can do that, you can move the needle over here that was once over here. Okay. Mm-hmm. So he kind of made you feel like that dude's not the smartest guy at all. And he's president of the United States. I could do that too.
The everyman.
He's the everyman, right? And then you have somebody like Obama come in. It's like, well, maybe I can't do this. He spoke eloquently. He just kind of, there, kind of did his thing, this and the other, right? And then you have Biden, whatever. And again, it's like, dude, like, you're never too old to do anything, are you? You know what I'm saying? Like, and again, that ageism type thing, but I'm just saying. And then you have somebody like Trump who comes in, and it's kind of like, okay. And then he leaves and then comes back again, and worse than he was before. And it's like, God damn. And then, and again, for me, this is what I'm saying. My thing is based on what the woman is saying, is that it's almost sacrilegious to get on to any platform and call half of Americans low IQ, nasty dummies. They are my enemies. You kind of make it where it's a derogatory, incendiary type of,
where you can't you can't have a differing opinion. Like, there's always been that political thing where,
right,
Democrats are this, Republicans are this, blah blah blah, right? But to where it's so normalized where if this person has an opinion that I don't align with, they don't just have an opinion I don't align with. They are my enemy, and they're planning on doing
Right.
me harm.
Right. It's not like I have a like, hey, we have, and that is the one thing, and I talked about this before. I don't know if it was on this podcast or on something that I wrote or did, but the one thing that I've always respected about John McCain, for instance, when he and Barack were going head and head, and they John McCain is a Republican, or excuse me, was a Republican, and he was at this town hall, and they were talking about he was giving a speech or whatever, and some lady said, "No, Obama's a Muslim, and he this that, and the other." And John McCain stops her in the tracks. He says, "No, he's not a Muslim. He's a Christian man. He's a great father. We just have a difference in political ideas. That is it. But he's still a good man. So we're not going to trash him like that." And I thought, and for he lost that elect. I mean, he lost that one horribly, but
Handedly, yeah.
I mean, like, oh my God, like, but I've always had a respect for him for saying that. You know what I'm saying? Where everybody else is kind of like, hey, say whatever you want, but he didn't. He still showed a modicum of of decorum as he was talking about him. And he's like, he's not my enemy. We just have a difference in political philosophy. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all this is. There's nothing more. There's nothing less. He is still a good man and he's still a good father. So we're not going to do that. And then when you see what's going on today, it's like, oh my God. And again, it's not just one man doing this. It's a whole culture of individuals that are signing off on this. And and I think that's where that's what is scary about this situation, is that you have the leader of the free world doing this. And again, y'all, I'm not just sitting there talking shit. The Huffington Post came out with an article today from therapists stating how harmful it is to look up to a president like this one, just in general.
Well, the discourse and just the nature of the person. Like, you don't have to like political figures. Like, you don't have to align yourself with political figures. But we're talking about the nature of a person. Would you trust this person to?
Right.
Would you trust this person to do right by you and your family if you knew them in real life?
Right. Correct. And not just real life though, because a lot of this stuff. I mean, you're a journalist major, so like this isn't like just this is seriously important, because you have children who are looking to this, stating this is what you're supposed to be like.
Yeah.
This is what you're supposed to be doing.
We enter this stage where words don't mean things as much as they used to. And what I'm saying by this is, we reach for and I know Louis C.K. mentioned this in one of his stand-up specials, but I'll throw this out there. We go for the top shelf with words. Right. We always go for the top shelf of words.
Yeah.
And in the sense of, the idea, and this is kind of the example. We talk about fascism, right? And talk about what fascism is. There are hallmarks to fascism. There are movements within fascism that you can historically link and say this is kind of what happened. And this was kind of the thing that was the march to this country being a fascist country or not being a fascist country. What we're seeing is you're actually seeing legitimate state control propaganda stuff, like and agitprop kind of stuff. Like, you're actually really seeing these things in real life being executed. And so what happens is, since we're so used to saying fascism and stuff like that, and I know somebody's gonna jump on there, well, you could do the same with racism. That's a separate conversation, because there's a sociological definition of racism and then the rhetorical definition of racism. And these aren't the same things. But we talk about when I talk about propaganda and the utilization of propaganda, right? Um, and who's a propagandist and who's not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, People get in their feelings about it. They absolutely do. They get in their feelings of, well, you're saying this person's a propagandist. Yeah, I am. Well, what makes you say that? Because here are the hallmarks of what they're doing, and these are the patterns and things that they normally do.
Right.
Um, and so I'm saying all that to say this. Um, when we try to affix these labels to identify what's going on, you can't clearly identify what's going on because we're in unprecedented times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I was talking to you about the entire Nick Fuentes Groiper thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, the media still doesn't quite understand that. They still see things in this binary of right wing, left wing, right? They don't understand that there's a culture of hyper online people who take the most absolute batshit extreme stances from the right and the left and from everywhere in between, and they build a political ideology around it. And that's where the Groypers come from. They come from, we are going to press on every single fault line, every single political fault line. We're going to press on it to basically watch the world burn. And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of their philosophy. So it doesn't matter if the political ideology fault line is about race. Doesn't mean it matter if it's homophobia, sexism, religion, whatever. If they can press on it and get people agitated, that's what they're going to do. That's their political ideology. It has no home on the political spectrum.
Right.
It's super individualized and super individuated, because what happens is it allows for ease of plausible deniability, because they can, a person can self-identify as a groper, and then they go off and do something do something horrible that brings a huge bad name to the entire their movement, and they can just say, well, they weren't truly part of our movement,
Mm-hmm.
because there is no structure. It's a decentralized kind of thing. Yes, it's tied this political figure, but since it doesn't exist anywhere on any one central location of the political spectrum, it's hard to group them in and treat, and everybody
Mm-hmm.
gets treated as individuals. That's what happened with the alt-right. That's what happened, we're seeing with like neo-Nazi stuff like that, where they don't necessarily, they'll self-identify, but there's no group that identifies as that.
Mm.
It's just a name that becomes tied to this loose association and affiliation of people.
Right.
And so what we're seeing it play out now is the Antifa stuff, where like we're watching um the media machine around the allowed media machine around our administration literally create a classification for a decentralized organization and saying anybody that does X, Y, and Z is part. We're basically seeing McCarthyism again. This is what
Mm.
McCarthy did with the Red Scare. This time it's the Antifa scare, because Antifa is like the boogeyman, and people that don't know any better think that there's Antifa meetings and stuff like that. You have loosely affiliated anti-fascist movements that have always existed. One of the largest ones that and you'll know who I'm talking about when I say them. One of the largest anti-fascist movements that's ever existed, and one of the largest Antifa groups ever existed, was the U.S. military in World War II.
Mm. That's what we're looking at right now. So basically, for those of you who may not necessarily understand what fascism is and this and the other, so it says in simpler terms, fascism is when a country trades freedom for order and unity.
Yeah,
Hold on. And obedience to one leader, usually at the great cost of human lives. Now, again, I kind of went off script on that, but it promises pride and power, but often delivers fear and oppression. And so, and here's some examples or whatever, which is really funny that they use considerably Caucasian individuals. Benito Mussolini, which is in Italy, um, Adolf Hitler, which is in Nazi Germany,
mm-hmm.
or whatever, and then Franco's Spain, but they don't say anything about King Leopold.
No.
They don't say nothing about him though. So basically, what this is and what we're talking about, another fascism country that they didn't talk about was North Korea.
Yep.
Very. That is like that is like the antithesis of what fascism is. Like that whole entire country is a what did they call it? They call it a what is it? It's when you kidnap somebody. What is that?
Oh, hostage state.
It is a hostage state. It's not even a hostage state, it's a hostage country. Because nobody's coming to save them, like at all. Like not whatsoever.
Well, and I
I-
want to touch on something you said because I want to point out a similarity.
Go ahead.
One of the things is, and what we're seeing is the complete and utter. Like we could say this person, and some people, okay, this show's about pissing people off. All right, so some people think that, well, this person called me a racist because I said racist things. And so they're labeling me and they're saying I'm evil and bad. No, we're just saying that you're a person who said racist things.
That's it.
Get your feelings out of it. Get your feelings out the street before they get hurt.
Mm.
But when we're talking about the labeling and the otherizing of people, we're talking about where the head of the country is saying those people over there are evil, bad, and wrong, and we must eradicate or get them under our boot. Otherwise, they're going to come and destroy us. It's palagenic ultranationalism. The idea that an entire country has to go through a process of cleansing and rebirth to restore its former glory and honor, right? Palingenesis is basically the idea of Genesis, be the rebirth, and nationalism is nationalism, right?
Okay,
And
so what did you call that again?
palagenic ultranationalism. And so it's the concept that a country needs to go through a process of cleansing and purification and rebirth in order to restore its former glory of whatever. And it's it well, I remember, okay, so this might be a separate conversation. But I remember talking to a conservative friend of mine, right, online. And I asked him straight up, like, this is during the Obama years, right? And he's ranting and raving, and and you're not going to take away my God-given right to, and basically that's a hallmark of when you're dealing with somebody who's sucked into that ultranationalism thing. When you're not going to destroy my right to blah blah, and some vacuous thing, right? And so I said, so since the election, what rights have you lost? I said, as a black man, I'm asking you, black man to white guy, who we're on social different stratas, and we agreed to that point. We're kind of in different places in this society. Name me one or two things that you have physically lost since the last election. This was during like 2012, 2013.
So when Obama was in office.
Yeah, when Obama's in office, give me something that he's removed that you don't have access to do anymore.
Right.
And I told him, I said, there's parts of this town that I can't drive in at specific times at night still without getting screwed with. And I said, that's a very real thing for me. I said, every 4 years, my humanity's on the ballot. But I asked him and he couldn't come up with anything. It's like, because all the stuff that you have lost is literally just a theory in your head, a concept where I could point to tangible things that is either come in or exited my life, right? And so I was like, when you start with the danger of that palagenic ultranationalism is it disconnects, and it disconnects from tangible and attaches to emotional. Basically, it's like you lost your right to have a white president.
Okay, say that one
That's
more
what I
time.
told her. I said, you lost your right. I said, you lost in your mind, the thing that you lost with Obama getting elected. In your mind, the thing you're raging against, you lost your right to have a white president.
Or maybe not. To go a little deeper.
but the way I phrased it was,
Go ahead.
that thing is not a right. But in your mind, you've made this your right to determine the 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 skin, the color of skin, or the race of your president up until this very point,
Mhm.
because there was only one option
Right. And
for a long time.
so you lost your representation.
You lost what you felt. You feel
You know what I'm
like
saying?
you
Right.
feel like it's impossible for this
And
person to represent you.
and not only that though, but to take it a step further, to go a little deeper, what also happened was is that what we've done is, what certain individuals have done is, we have, what is that word when you take something and you humanistic, you make it like a person.
Personify,
You
or
yeah, but there's a certain word for it though. It's anyway, same thing we do with like a TV remote that walks around, that
yeah,
has two arms, two
I
legs.
get what you're saying.
Whatever. So there's a certain word for that or whatever.
I'll
But
look it up while you're talking.
so basically, what we've done is we've, what certain individuals have done is they've taken, when we talk about the system itself, the system itself has been personified as being white.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So when you say we take back my America, what America are you talking about? Like, I was just listening to a gentleman who said that 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 white people built this country from nothing. Yeah, they were slaves, but they didn't really do anything.
Hmm.
But they but he said, actually, he said they were there, but they didn't really do much. But it was my ancestors, it was the white guys who came here and built everything up. And I was just sitting there thinking, like, and you're at a college. I wonder what classes you're taking, right? Because even at your school, they're going to show you, like, nah, that's not. If you look in any bit of history, hell, even if you go into elementary schools, they'll tell you who built this country up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So again, so you're trying to tell me that you are actually in college and they're not teaching you this, or you don't want to learn that,
Or you're choosing to believe what you want to
or you're
believe.
choosing to believe, which is what is that? What is that? Confirmational
Information bias.
bias, or whatever. Where you're only looking up the information that you want to see. I was just coaching a lady, and um a lot of my views are very left leaning. And again, I'm not necessarily saying that they're right. I'm just saying that I I like to read. I'm very well read. I like to, and even if I don't know certain stuff, I want to know or whatever. So I'm trying to always put myself in somebody else's shoes or whatever. And she worked for the Bellevue Police Department,
Hmm.
and she also worked at the jail before too. And she was telling me about her experience as a dispatcher and this and the other, working directly with with the police department. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Hmm.
And she said that the amount of disrespect that cops get in general is just abhorrent. I'm like, okay. And then she goes in and she talks about that. And so I started asking her, let me ask you, if 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 we know that over policing in certain neighborhoods is unhelpful, but you still keep doing it anyway, even after all of the scientific facts, the research, the study shows that this actually makes things worse. Having y'all around or whatever. I'm like, so at what point does a person need to tell y'all to quit? But before y'all, again, and like I told him, like, we have to take accountabilities on both sides of a lot of this stuff. I totally understand that. But at the same time, though, when you're a police officer, you are choosing to be a cop. You that's a choice.
Hmm.
Nobody's forcing you to do that. Now, for me personally, I take my hat off and I applaud people that become police officers, because that's not a job that I'm built to do. Like, I don't want that job.
Hmm.
So I'm also not going to critique people that do it. But what I will say is this: when you put that badge on, you are stating that you are you're not above reproach. You are the standard, and and you're always trying to rise above that,
Hmm.
right? That's how I look at stuff. And like I told her, I said, ma'am, I've seen police officers come on the scene to a place and make things way worse than it needs to be. Way worse than it needs to be. They'll take something simple and blow it out of proportion. But I've also seen the public do the same exact thing with them. So again, it's not, and again, people just have we people have a fear of police officers. Now, I look at that like this. This is me personally. I look at police officers the same exact way as I do the IRS. I I understand what they're here for. It doesn't mean I gotta like you. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't like people who work at Burger King either all the time. But I'm also not gonna talk shit to somebody who's back there making my food either.
Well,
You know what I'm saying? I was like, I'm not doing that. So like I told her, because we had gotten into it. It wasn't, and again, it was just a discussion.
mhm.
It wasn't an argument. It wasn't even a debate. She was saying some stuff. I said some stuff, but again, and I even showed her in my collection of books that not only do I have left leaning stuff, I also have right leaning stuff as well. You gotta know how everybody feels because otherwise, like I pride myself in trying to understand both sides of everything,
Mhm.
regardless of how skewed your perception may be to me. To you, it makes perfect sense. It's not my job to try to transform you. It's one of the greatest things that Neil deGrasse Tyson said, which is one of my favorite people. I'm just to throw it out there. He said, "Listen, if I'm talking to you about something, and I'm going to ask you just one question, is there anything I can show or prove to you how your perception might be skewed in what we're talking about? Would you be open if I showed you something to maybe offset what you're talking about? If it's a no, then conversation's over.
Yeah.
If I can show you ample amounts of proof that God doesn't exist, would you actually take what I'm saying to heart? Probably not.
Yeah. Most people
So
aren't.
there's nothing I'm gonna say to you. And again, as far as hello, goodbye, have a great day. What are you eating? Do you like lunch? Lunch is on me. Type stuff. We don't need to discuss anything else pertaining to this. There's certain people I do not talk to about religion. There's certain people I do not talk
Right.
to about politics, and it's not because I don't want to hear your point. It's that you don't like questions.
It's entrenched.
It's like right, you're indoctrinated. Whereas I'm trying to educate you, you need indoctrination, and I don't want to indoctrinate. That's not what I do.
And so to jump back a little bit to the point, and I think the bigger question is, um, one, all right, so we talk about over policing, right? And this is me jumping back way farther back in the conversation. Why is it, and this is a genuine question, and I don't expect people are going to answer this honestly. If we know the deleterious effects of over policing, and we know that that a lot of times when just by nature of having to fulfill certain quotas and things like that, a lot of times officers that don't have anything to do look for things to do.
Right.
And
I like that. You say they don't got nothing to do, so they look for stuff to do.
and
Right.
typically that look for something to do means I'm going to cite this person, I'm going to manufacture a crime or manufacture some kind of thing that would not otherwise exist. It wouldn't otherwise be a crime if I was were I not paying attention to this thing. Because realistically, when you go through the code of books, if you go through any of the codes or laws in your state, city, or township, literally everything you do is against the law at some point in time. Anything you do out in public is against the law at some point in time, depending on who you're interacting with. But if we know that over policing is a problem, and we know that when an officer doesn't have anything to do, they have to find something to do, otherwise they get disciplinary actions too. Do you think that when you have an area community that's over policed, do you think that you're going to see more of those kind of crimes, citations, you know? And then you need to ask, so if this is an ongoing thing and this has been happening for decades in a specific community, how long does somebody have to stand in your backyard after you ask, if you let them know that they weren't necessarily welcome to stand back there, they didn't have any purpose back there? How long are you going to allow them to stand in your backyard before you start to get irritated?
Yeah, I think you should.
Where they're just kind of like where it's just hall monitor stuff, where it's not.
Say that one more time. Say that last sentence one more time, please.
How long does somebody have? How long are you going to allow somebody to stand in your backyard, just staring at you, supervising you, when they know that they're not necessarily welcome? How long before you start to get irritated? Because I was looking, and I'm thinking about specifically when they rolled the feds out in D.C., right? They had all those, federal agents out in the streets in Washington, D.C., and bro was literally outside smoking a cigarette, and they started messing with him on his own porch, in his own curtilage. Fearless, you know what I mean by that? In his own curtilage, he's standing within his house, essentially, because the front entryway is considered curtilage, and so you are still in your own property, standing on his porch smoking a cigarette and being accosted for standing there minding his own business. How long is a person supposed to endure that for this vacuous notion of public safety? And if this was your neighborhood, 192nd and whatever. Mirrorfielders know what that means. I mean, if you're not from here, you don't know what that means. But you're on 192nd and whatever, which is the burbs, the suburbs.
How'd that happen here?
Well, I'm asking, how long would you endure? I'll ask this question here. So I was actually at the Omaha 360 meeting when they announced Omaha had the shot spotter things, right? The listening stations, right, in North Omaha, and
that's for gunshots. For those of you who don't know,
that's for gunshots. But they say that's for gunshots. There's been stuff that they can track. They can hear other things besides gunshots. But
really?
Yeah. And so, and there's a bias. There's a real clear bias. There's a psychological bias that was occurring even when they're explaining this. If you pay attention to a certain part of town, you're going to notice things more in a certain part of town. When I lived out in West, I heard more gunshots than I did when I lived up north.
Yeah, me too.
But there weren't listening towers out West, because then people out West, them homeowner associations, they would not tolerate a listening station on their streetlights above their house.
Yeah, you're right, because it doesn't look good.
Right. But people in North Omaha are expected to just that's just okay for us. So there are specific things, well, there's more gunshots and blah, blah, blah. I could tell you that living out West, me and my wife heard gunshots all the time. Like, just because we were out near some open, like there's some open fields out there where people could go off and let off guns. And so we heard gunshots all the time. We encountered more property crime and more property crime and more street crime when we lived out West.
Yeah.
And so
can I let me interject just for one iota. When people talk about Bloods and Crips, and I say that I will say this till I am blue in the face. I will say this until God decides that I'm done here. The hardest, the toughest Bloods and Crips that I have ever met in my 46 years of living, the hardest Bloods and Crips that I've ever met in my life were white. Just gonna stab them. Bloods and Crips. The hardest, and when I say toughest, I mean I would not play with these dudes at all for any reason. White guys. Just saying. They put it down the hardest. Off top. So when Dave Chappelle says in one of his specials, when he said that when you see all them black dudes and you see that one white guy, you better understand that that white dude has done some shit that them black dudes is like, nah, nah, we cool. Like, and I think that we've all known somebody like that growing up. That there's certain white dudes that are just, it's something about them. Like your gangsters on some other type shit. Like, matter of fact, I was watching this documentary about these Bloods and Crips, blood guys, and I think it was in Inglewood, California, and it was two white dudes, and they were both Bloods from whatever section over there. They said that these two dudes, matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, on the Boondocks, you remember the Boondocks, those white characters? If I doubt that they were based off of them, but
I know where they're based off. I can tell you.
But I'm telling you, these white dudes out of Inglewood, California, it was two of them. They was shooting other Crips like they had a license to do so.
Yeah,
like they were in the feds. They and the other black, they were scared of these dudes because they were known for shooting people. No problem. Like they had it in their DNA type shit.
Well,
it's saying like, oh my God.
In the Boondocks, Jen and Rummy.
Is that what their names were?
The two white dudes in the Boondocks.
Oh my God.
You know who they're based off of?
I mean, are you talking about Charlie and
yeah, Charlie Murphy and Samuel Jackson? You know what their character models are based off of?
No, I don't.
Think on it. So you had Donald Rumsfeld and George W. Bush.
Message on WhatsApp from mail. Saying thank you.
Oh,
did you hear this?
Yeah.
Okay, now I need to shut these off from my ears, so please.
But yeah, those two characters, the character models were based off Donald Rumsfeld and George W. Bush.
That's funny. That's what they had that Westlake. We had the W.
Yeah,
they did. Oh my God, they were
just like Uncle Ruckus. His character model is based off of Clarence Thomas.
Need that part.
Onceler was supposed to be like Dick Cheney. Like
that makes sense.
And so when you start digging through it, that's who they base the character model. It was supposed to. That's what. Here's the thing, and I feel like that's one thing that's lost. Before we get too far into it, you remember? I'm sitting there. I'm kind of rocked by the news, man. Like, D'Angelo passed, bro. Like, the singer.
The singer.
Yeah.
Today.
Pancreatic cancer, man. Pancreatic cancer. 51 years old. Rest in peace, bro. The thing that, and it may be, Boondocks may be one of the last pieces of actual satire that had a mainstream audience. That had a huge mainstream audience. Like, it was satire. It was that's what the entire thing was, and that's what made the show such a cultural phenomenon in its thing. Black Dynamite did too, to a degree. If you've ever seen the animated Black Dynamite, there's a lot of really hard biting political satire in there, but Boondocks was one of the last ones. But one of the things, like I said, back to what we're discussing, there are certain standards of living that we expect people who live in specific areas of the neighborhood or specific areas of the city where it's just expected of them that that would not be accepted in other parts of town. Over policing would not be accepted in the suburbs. Just, it wouldn't happen. And so at some point we ask ourselves internally, who is benefiting from this? Right. And so I'm using that as a transition to get back to our topic. You need to ask, whenever you run into somebody who's utilizing some of these techniques, who actually draws benefit from it? Who draws benefit from catastrophizing everything with emergency language? Right. Who benefits from, I think we did talk about quiet rule changes. Who benefits from that? When we talk about quiet rule changes, anything from as small as this small thing got changed on the tax code to, well, now they're revoking this provision. They're removing the things that allow enforcement of this specific law. Major regulatory or budget changes announced late on Fridays or holidays, or in the midst of some other political turmoil that's going on. A government shutdown is a fantastic pretext to
Yes.
do a lot of different things.
You can do a whole bunch of stuff while the country suffers.
Yeah.
And I do have a question. So because of the Second Amendment allows a person to bear arms, not necessarily against each other, but we're bearing it against a tyrannical government.
Yeah.
I would say that right now, that would be the time to replace said government in general, based on based on the what is it, the what we celebrate the 4th of July for, the independence, that states that if your country, if this administration, if this government is not doing its job, your duty, your obligation is to replace it.
I got one thing to throw in here because I'm gonna throw this in here because I want to put this conversation before I got to run out the door.
Okay.
So a lot of times, and this is just my personal thing, a lot of times people love ideas and concepts like the Second Amendment and things like that, wrap themselves in the Constitution, as long as they can apply it to somebody external to them. My question to a lot of people that are big, huge purveyors of the Second Amendment and love it, I'm not for or against. It is what it is, right? I'm not against guns or anything. I don't really care. My question is, are you willing to stand 10 toes down when the people who are impacted by this do not look like you and don't live next door to you? Are you ready to take up arms on their behalf too? Or is it only when it becomes something that is an immediate, what you perceive as an immediate threat to you and yours? Because a lot of times the people you're going to be defending are people that do not agree with you. And if you're and if you're fine with them getting fed into the blender, then in my estimation, your embrace of these ideas is surface level. If you're not willing to like go, bang hard for the people that don't politically align with you, voted a different way than you did, then a lot of your stuff is on paper. That's like last week when I was talking about Ernie Chambers. Ernie Chambers fought for people who did not like him.
Yeah. And that's why I've always respected him.
That's integrity. People that did not like him or vocal critics of his, he would still, on the principle of the thing, would still fight if he felt like you were getting screwed over by the government. And a lot of times I feel like people's embrace of that Second Amendment is so tied to their politic as opposed to what they believe their fundamental rights are in this country, that they won't go out and raise arms to defend somebody who doesn't align with them politically. They won't they won't protect their right to free speech. They won't protect their right to bear arms. They won't protect their right to security and freedom of movement and unlawful detainment. They won't fight on behalf of that because they don't politically align with them. That's one of the issues. It's internal. It's internalized. It's a internalized thing. Either it applies to everybody or it applies to nobody.
Right.
The right to bear arms either applies to everybody or applies to nobody, right? The right to free speech, right for freedom of religion, freedom from a state-sponsored religion applies to everybody or applies to nobody. And if you're not willing to fight for this person who doesn't align with you, you're not really ready to fight for it. You're fighting for your self-interest.
Right.
And I would love people to just cop to that and say, I encountered one person who actually did that. And I encountered one person who actually did that online on Twitter, where he's like, I don't care about them. I care about me. I don't care what happens to y'all. I'm worried about how this impacts me.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, I don't.
I'm
okay with you saying that.
Yeah, but
because at least now I understand. Like where you, I get it.
Yeah.
I would rather you say that They'd be like, yeah, I'm here for everybody, but you're not.
Right. And I think I think that that's kind of that's going to be the thing that kind of determines how robustly you believe in these concepts
Right.
that the country is founded on. How robustly do you believe in it? You know, um, I remember this is really weird. It was a really weird thing. So open carry, like you see those open
Yes.
carry videos all the time, right?
Yep.
And every time, like, it was a brother who was open carrying, and he was getting harassed in an open carry state.
Mm-hmm.
And the sentiment there was, well, that's not. I'm pro gun, but that's not what open carry is for. Well, what's it for?
Right.
Or is it who's it for?
Correct.
It's not for him.
It's not what, it's who.
Why is it not for him, but it's okay for this person over here?
Right.
You know, why do you need to open carry into going into Subway to order your sandwich?
Isn't that crazy?
If it's okay for this person, it should be okay for this person as long as they're legal to carry the thing, right? But it's not. It's a self-preservation thing.
Hmm.
So that's all I'm saying, bro. And so I feel like a lot of times when we have these kind of political conversations, people are really super aligned with what their narrow interest is.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't necessarily, how we used to say, the skills weren't generalized. It wasn't generalized to other situations or other people. It was
Okay.
only based on this individual's experience and how it affects them. I respect that more if you just say, yeah, it's just me being selfish, I don't really care, than to pretend like it's wrapped in some ethical, God-given right to do whatever. Okay, so uphold the God. If it's a God-given right, then that means it applies to everybody here, according to your framework and use of the word God-given.
Mm-hmm.
It applies to everybody.
Right. I mean, that's all I've thought about that too. In the regards of, like you just said, like, it's my God given right, dude. Here's the thing: if God gave you a mouth, then you can speak.
Right.
If God gave you legs, and you can walk. If He gave you hands and eyes, and you can use them. Those are things that are just they're not God given. They're just an ant wouldn't say God gave me the ability to excrete this particular smell so other ants can find me.
Right.
Biology did that. Now, I
Right.
mean, you could say that biology is a part of God, and this and the other. You're more than welcome to do that. But all I'm saying is that what are we talking about? Like, you have the right to do and say whatever you feel the need to. Man says what you can and cannot say.
Yeah.
Man says what you can eat and what you cannot eat. Man says what time you need to be here and what time you cannot be. Man says what you need to be doing, what you don't do. Man does that.
Right.
Man wrote the Bible. God didn't write it. Man did. So all this stuff that we are saying that is God given, it's not God given. It's man given. So I think that even with that, we gotta bring that shit back and look at it for what it is. Another man, another person is telling you what God said. God can just come on down and talk to you himself or herself or itself, but it chooses not to. So what you're trying to tell me is that the supreme being sent you, who fucks up the economy constantly, who lies, who cheats, who kills, who steals everything. You don't bring anything to fucking society at all. This same guy told you to tell me what I can and can't do. How about this? Let's double down on it. Fuck you and him.
Well, here's the thing. That's the that's the palogenic side of it. That's the ultranational. The palogenic ultranationalism always it typically will align with some kind of religious power or something and give and ordain very despicable things. And so people feel like we have to, it's a sacrament. We have to sacrifice the current state of things and have a rebirth. It's very insidious. And it's a scary time to live in when people are aligning, when people are literally aligning their religious beliefs with what's going on in the White House. Where you saying, well, this is God's president, that God picked this elected official. Any elected official worth their salt should say, you know what? Don't do that to me.
Like, yeah, don't do that.
You
Don't-
guys voted for me. Don't do that to me.
boy.
Don't wrap yourself. You should be very wary of any politician that sits there.
That tells you that.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not gonna lie to you. If you listen to me, y'all can shun me if you want to, but I'm gonna tell you right now. If you want a better nation, seriously, if you want a better nation, I'm gonna tell you like this, and this is my honest to God feeling on it. I think that all of our public officials should be atheists. Period. I think they should be atheists. Period. And the reason why I say that they should be atheists is because an atheist would tell you, "Hey, man, don't do that. Like, I'm here because you put me here." I could say the same exact thing for you. I could say that by the grace of God, you were born to put me where I am. But at the same time, though, if there's billions of other sperm cells and I just so happen to be here, what happens if it was somebody else? What happens if I ended up or showed up somewhere else? Would you still would voted for me? Probably not, because I'd have been a totally different person. So don't do that.
I think I would rather, and so I wouldn't go that far from me personally, but this is mine. I would say I need to have somebody who has the wherewithal to understand that their spiritual and moral beliefs are theirs, and they can build principles around them. But what you cannot do is enforce those religious and spiritual beliefs on other people via office. You have to be able to separate what your public facing life is versus the private facing side of things.
Right, but the problem is that
People don't do it.
But they're not doing that.
Yeah.
You have again, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
If we had somebody that was moral, if we had somebody that stood on ethics, if we had somebody, and when I say ethics, I mean ethical for everybody. I mean moralistically for everybody, not just the people who voted for you, but for the ones who didn't too.
Yeah.
So if I'm trying to feed America, again, now here's the thing: if I'm giving you fruits, vegetables, corn, poultry, fish, whatever to feed you, but all you want is a T-bone steak, I'm sorry. But again, I can't do everything for everybody. But what I am going to do is I will feed everybody. Now, whether you want it or not, that's on you. But here's the meal type stuff.
Right.
Or whatever. Now, if you can go outside of that and go get yourself a T-bone, great. It's just like giving people free health care, or at least access to free health care. Now, if you want a rhinoplasty, that's on you to go do that. If you want a BBL, that's on you to go do that. But the rest of making sure that you're healthy, this, that, and the other, we will supply that. We'll make sure that you get that.
Well, I think it goes back to this.
Come on, man.
I agree with. And see, here's what this is what I'm putting in here. For me, if I vote for somebody, right? If we're talking about integrity and ethics and stuff, right? In politics, right? If you vote for somebody, you should expect that they're going to represent the people that didn't vote for them as well.
Yes.
In a respectful way. They don't necessarily have to legislate or, anything, but they need to respect them. And that's what we don't have right now. Even our local elected officials are doing the same damn thing. Some of the people I've actually seen out and about do the same thing as what's happening at the top, where the people that don't agree with us are demons and evil and of hell. And that's how they refer to us. And when you start utilizing that kind of language, because we need to understand the import of language. Dehumanizing language is meant for use dehumanizing language for a specific reason. In war zones, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. In war zones, that's why you see a lot of slurs. Because when you refer to the people that you are killing as slurs, you don't see them as people. It's easy to compartmentalize
Yeah,
that
yeah,
side of
yeah,
it.
yeah. So the objective is to dehumanize them.
Yeah.
And once you dehumanize something or someone, it's easy to do whatever you need to do to them because you don't see them as a person anymore.
As soon as I see what is it, the demon rats, or they call Democrats demon rats, I instantly like, oh, this person's far beyond, too far.
Yeah.
Too far to reach, too far to interact. I'm not even going to waste my time interacting. And I've been doing a little bit more political stuff on my other social media channels. And so I'm conditioning myself not to engage with people that are obviously just screwing with you. They're just there to fight with you. And I'm not going to sway them, not going to convince them any way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
Let's do bipartisan silence when both parties, red and blue. Can I throw this in here real quick? One thing is, when we talk about political parties, I think people don't understand this. And this is just comes from the political nerd side of me thing.
Mhm.
We are in, depending on who you talk to, depending on what political scientist you're speaking with, we are either in the 6th or 7th U.S. party system.
Could you
Okay,
elaborate?
so there are different political eras in the United States, right? And so each one is kind of categorized by a party system. Okay. And so this is basically who the major parties are and what they align with. Okay. And we're about in the 6th or 7th iteration of this. Okay. The last one they said kind of ended in 2020. The 6th party system was known for Lee Atwater and the Southern Strategy to realign Dixiecrats in the South. Barry Goldwater, um, you know, the Reagan Democrats
Strom
Reagan.
Strom Thurmond
Yeah,
type dudes.
and Strom might have been, I think he was kind of a holdover from the 5th, but you know what I mean by that, where you had Reagan, the Reagan Revolution, the Republican Revolution, like it, and it basically ran more or less to anywhere between 2008 up till 2008, 2016, anywhere. It's not necessarily a clean thing. What I'm saying is we are in the 6th or 7th cycle of the different political party systems. So what that means is, and I've told people this, the label Democrat Republican is just a label. We need to talk about what their alignment is. Are they progressive?
Or like what that means. Yeah, because I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was talking to Jessica, and Jessica was asking me like, what's the difference between she said, what's the difference? What? She said, what's the difference between between liberal, what is it? My brain
Liberals,
started just
conservatives?
liberals and conservatives, whatever. So real quick, can you tell me what your definition of that is, and then I'll tell you if I agree in what I told her.
So I go based on, because I mean, we're talking about it. So because this is, it's hard for me to explain.
Or can I give you mine?
Go ahead and give me yours.
Okay. So when I told her is conservative are people who like things kind of the way that they are, or look at things the way that things used to be, and kind of want that same thing to conserve something,
Yep,
to
that's
keep things the way that it is. A liberal, on the other hand, see things that says, well, you know what, man, maybe we could change this, or maybe we can do this over here. So change doesn't always mean better. It
Right.
just means that the way things used to be isn't the way that it is today. So whether that's good, bad, and different, I don't know. Depends on the person that you ask. But liberating means to consistently wander out,
Right.
to look for maybe better, different ways of doing things, or ways of doing things that different from that differ from the status quo. So
Right.
that's what I told her.
And so that's kind of follows where it follows. Ideally, the idealistic side of me likes to say that that's what necessarily was. The reality, realistic side says they're both sides of the same neoliberalism kind of coin, where a lot of it's based in free market capitalism and stuff like that. So I'm saying that to say this.
Okay.
The idea of a Republican or a Democrat is great on paper, right? But when we apply it to the framework of we're in the 6 or 7 party system. And if you don't believe me, go look it up, right? If you don't believe me 100%, I encourage you to go look it up. My interpretation of this is that label changes all the time because we used to have the Whig party, right? Like we have political movements that don't exist anymore. But the Democrat of 2016 is not the same Democrat of 1856.
Not correct. No, not at all.
It's not the same party. And the reason why it's not the same party is because every time we shift into a new political era, the definition of who's in what party changes. So yeah, the thing you hear a lot about black people, black people used to be Republican. Yeah, my grandma was a Republican up until civil rights era.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Republicans became conservative instead of liberal. Mm-hmm. And she changed alignment because that's normally what happens. And so when we talk about historically who's a Republican or Democrat, I don't think that's a great framework to discuss it. Where are they on the political spectrum? Are they progressive? Are they liberal? Are they conservative? Centrist? Where do they sit on that spectrum? And so you have to look at the parties through that frame, right? And so hopefully I'm not losing people with this.
No. So
the 7-party system is considered kind of the populist era, okay, where it's about the populist candidates saying the things that align that are public that the public aligns with, and it's really about a cult of personality kind of thing. Okay, that's kind of the Donald Trump era, where it's really kind of a personality driven kind of politic, not necessarily policy driven. But if we jump back to the last whole political system, this is neoconservatives, compassionate conservatives, rise of the religious right, and all that other stuff. Those Republicans are not the same as the Tea Party Republicans that popped up in 2012.
Yeah.
And the Tea Party Republicans share some DNA with the MAGA Republicans. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's just a label. It's a label that doesn't necessarily indicate a specific political alignment one way or the other. It's just whatever that current alignment is.
Mm-hmm.
And so right now, the Democrats' alignment is, in my estimation, is center, from where it used to be, is more center right than center left.
Okay.
But they just are the opposite of what they're basically considered the opposition to the Republicans. Like I said, the core values and what the party stands for changes every political cycle, every political system, it changes. And so the 80s era Republican is not even the Republican of today. And that's just how it sets up. And I don't think we're necessarily done a favor by holding on to the same political names. I know that that's what the point is, but I don't think that they should even hold on. I think the party should change their names every political era.
I think that we do have. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's hindering us for just having a 2-party system in general? Because other countries have a multitude of different other parties. That's not, I mean, yeah, that it's not that they don't have a far right or far left. Sure. They do, but then they have a couple of them that are kind of like in between, that are more this or that or more that or whatever. But usually those ones in between are that. So again, I guess technically we have the 3-part, which is independent, which is kind of like a play on both. But do we need another one, or do we need somebody that's independent that's like, bro, okay, I see what's going on here, but these are the things that we actually need now?
Well, Nebraska used to be kind of a microcosm of what you're talking about.
Okay.
Because it was really rare up until really recently. It was rare to really know exactly what the mayor's political party was.
Mm-hmm.
If you notice that, we didn't really care. As long as a boring white guy, you can just put him in the office, nobody cared. right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yes, I remember
And
that.
so we weren't necessarily because
Like Hal Dobbs.
yeah,
Nobody gave a shit.
we had Ben Nelson. Ben Nelson
Ben
is a perfect
Nelson, yep.
example. Ben Nelson was a perfect example. He was a conservative Democrat, right?
Mhm.
But nobody really cared. They just voted for Ben Nelson because they like Ben Nelson. And so
Yeah.
it was this apolitical thing. I feel like either, I don't know if it's a human condition or if it's an American condition. We operate in binaries. Our
Mm.
brain cannot handle more than two options when it comes to made for decisions.
Wow.
And I don't know if it's an American invention or
Crazy.
I don't know if it's an American invention or if it's a a human condition. But if it's we have to make things either or. And when you do that, you invite extremes on either side. Now, I'm
Okay.
not saying in this political climate, I'm be honest with you, each side isn't extreme. One side is kind of what used to be on the fringes, edges of right wing, which is kind of mainstream now. The other side has been the same boring centrists, the same ineffectual boring centrists that they've always been.
Yeah.
And
Same ineffective, right?
and so that's what you're seeing play out. You're seeing center people being, and for the people that are on the fringes, it benefits them to paint the people in the center as the radical ideology, where realistically the people in the center are making the Democrats are making the most pragmatic play, which is okay. So we kind of have a diverse coalition of people, so we need to speak to a diverse coalition of people. Well, that's radical. Well, no, it's not necessarily, because if you have a diverse coalition of people, you need to speak to a diverse coalition of people. Now, the problem where it gets problematic is what happens is this is where the racial dynamics come into play, because one thing that's happening in the Democratic Party is um, since they are a diverse party, you're decentering entrenched white Democrats, and they don't like that shit.
Hmm.
They don't like that shit at all.
Now, now they're doing what? Interesting. What?
So, all right. So what's happening is, this is just my take on it, guys. Y'all can argue with me. I don't, my take on it is what's happening within. You see, especially on the Dem side of the ticket, the Democratic side of the ticket, you're seeing them having to have a more diverse array of people within the party, right? Like LGBTQ is under there, but then you also have people of color, you have black people, you have all these other groups that are kind of in this Democratic under this tent, right? What's happening is you're starting to see the traditional Dem leadership, who's typically been white, they feel like they're being decentered. Where they aren't the ones making the decisions for the entire direction of the party anymore. That's what played out in the last election cycle, bro. Like you've read her book, you know what I'm saying? You know what her take on it was, where there was like this weird feud internally.
Mhm. I mean, yeah, that's what she said.
It was a decentering of the typical powers that be. Now, some of the powers that be are black. Jim Clyburn is black. He is the guy. He is the godfather of the Democratic Party in the South. You have to go through him. You got to get his stamp of approval. Just because he's done all the networking, all the coalition building, it's not a good thing. He's actually been huge in suppressing some of the more progressive candidates. He's been that person that's been that barrier. But
So is he kind of like the Thomas Sowell of networking?
I think he's more who was a pragmatic. Do you remember Boardwalk? You ever watch Boardwalk Empire?
Of course.
He's kind of the Nucky Thompson of the political.
Gotcha. Okay.
He
got his hands on in everything.
Yeah, and so, but Clyburn's black, and so people are like, well, Clyburn's black. Well, but he doesn't move as a typical black politician. He's about the power game and who holds the power and who gets to decide who. He's basically the kingmaker in the party right now. And what's happening is you're finding the younger, more progressive, more diverse Democrats are running into a very hard brick wall, with
Okay.
some of the older establishment ones who have been overwhelmingly white. And so they are having this reckoning within the party where basically saying, hey, you guys can't just speak over us and, go tell, because they've been in that position where they feel like they have to go tell the Dems have to go tell other white people where they got to stand up for us and do all this other stuff. You don't have to do that. The diverse members of the party can articulate and speak for themselves. They don't need you to stand up and speak over them. And so that's the internal fight that you're having right now. Like I said, it's interesting when you get into some of the psychology of how some of these parties work. But the problem is we use these broad brushstrokes. And so when you say, well, Black people were Republicans until they got tricked and lied to, basically you're saying Black people are easily manipulated. Black people are gullible. We don't know how to be pragmatic with our vote. When realistically, when you look at Black voters, we are typically the most pragmatic group of voters there are, because we're going to vote for people that we think have a chance of winning. I don't know if you remember this. It was hard for Obama to win over Black folks because our cynicism about this country was stepping in the way. We had to, there was a huge barrier that he had to prove to us that he could win. Black folks are a very pragmatic voting bloc. And so, especially when you get down south, because they're like, okay, we got to move in, we're already a minority of a minority. We got to move in accordance and vote for the person we think has the best chance at winning, not who we like.
The last book that he wrote, his was way better. I'm just going his book was way better than Kamala's, like in general. But he was also talking about what it was to be the president in general. But then there was a lot of stuff that he left out.
Yeah.
That I would have loved to know how he felt about certain things, whatever. But like his book was phenomenal. I'm not gonna lie.
He's a learned guy, and he's also a prolific writer. Like, here's the thing, and this is the last thing I'm gonna say. I think a lot of times we reduce people that we disagree with to babbling idiots, right? And sometimes the people we disagree with are babbling idiots. A lot of times, though, the people that you disagree with just simply disagree with you. I watched a lot of people denigrate Obama's intelligence. And I know a lot of Black folks that don't really...
A Harvard graduate. Yeah.
I know a lot of Black folks that don't necessarily fuck with Obama.
Like he's stupid. Like
I know a lot of Black folks that don't necessarily fuck with Obama for their own reasons. I got my disagreements with him. But he wasn't a dumb guy. He was a learned individual. And Harvard, he had all these different things where you have to be a really intelligent person to even be in the room here. But I watched a lot of people say, well, he's idiot, he's stupid, he's dumb. No, he's not. You just don't agree with what he says. He's a learned guy. He's probably, when we run down academic qualifications, he's probably the most academically qualified person to sit in that desk ever. Right. Considering that, GW bombed his way through Yale
and everything, right? And if it wasn't for his father, his ass would have been at a community college. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah, Black people, we don't have that. If you see a Black person that graduated from Ivy League school, understand that we don't have that. A lot of times we don't have that pedigree and that benefit where our daddy's name is on a building or something. Where we could just bomb through every class and graduate with the C average. That's not what happens. So when you see a Black person or a brown person who's graduated from a high prestigious school, they earn that shit.
Right. So yeah, go ahead.
And so I saw a lot of people we're gonna say Obama's an idiot. We're gonna say Harris is an idiot. She's not an idiot. She's a
yeah. And when we talk about DEI, here's the thing, man. Y'all gotta seriously. And again, that the biggest problem, the thing that I loved about that book, and again, that she talked about is there is a war on education. There is a war on fucking literacy.
Yeah.
Y'all, there's a war. Like, and you know who's winning? The motherfuckers who don't read anything.
I was gonna say that, yo. So
the people who don't read nothing.
You're an autodidact just like I am, right?
Yes, sir.
We read a lot, we consume a lot, we're self-taught. The fastest way I know I'm dealing with somebody who it's gonna piss people off. The fastest way I know I'm dealing with somebody who's dumb is when they lead with, well, I may not be book smart, but I'm No, you're not. You're not either kind of smart, because street smart people don't sit around and talk about how street smart they are.
No.
People with
No.
common sense don't talk about how much common sense they have. So the fastest way to out yourself, in my opinion, as somebody who isn't a very intelligent person, is to come out and say, I may not be book smart, but you're not either. You're not either kind of smart. You're not book smart. You have no common sense, because people who have intelligence don't qualify it like that. Bro, I've done the entire gifted kid. Like, I did all the entire gifted kid gamut of stuff, where you take the IQ test and all that other stuff, right? I did all that stuff. I know what my IQ is, and I also know that IQ isn't really it's not really a measure. Like, it's kind of an approximation of my cognitive ability in some aspects, but it's not necessarily a measure of intelligence. Like, I'm like a 145, 150, depending on what the task is or whatnot.
My it's funny enough.
Mhm.
Mine is mine is 115. So think
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Your shit is damn near up there with genius level.
Yeah.
My shit is like at average or maybe a little bit above.
Yeah.
Actually, wait, here, let's look that up just real fast.
Well-
The average of that. Go ahead and keep talking now.
And so I'll say that it doesn't mean anything. It is not a measure of accomplishment. In fact, high IQ people tend to be the ones that struggle the most in a lot of regards. But people utilize that, and whenever you hear somebody on Twitter talking about sub IQ or the general IQ, typically some racists using some race science based stuff to talk about black people's collective IQ is 80 and all this other stuff. You know that they don't. You know, you're talking to somebody, and this is what I was like. You're talking to somebody who wanted to be in the club, who wanted to be in that high IQ club, and so they value and cherish that. And it's like, but you could never get in, because people that are in those seats don't sit around and talk about what their IQ is all the time. This is probably the first time I've said this publicly. You know what I'm saying? I don't think about that shit on a day-to-day basis.
No, I do not either.
But you always on Twitter, you always it's always the pseudo fake intellectual guy that wants to be smarter than he actually is. He sits around, listens to Jordan Peterson or what Elon Musk just shit posts.
Okay, so hey, matter of fact, here, let's go to stream, y'all, right? Just real fast.
All right.
So
Then
you
I'm gonna
can-
jump out of here, y'all.
Yeah, no, I feel you. All right, so what's the average IQ? So the average IQ is literally it's 100. Here's how it works. The basics, the IQ design are designed so that 100% of the statistical average, the midpoint, most people, about 68% of the population score between 85 and 115. What did I tell you my thing was?
150.
115. So my shit is literally average.
Right.
You are in the gifted ability, which is 130
Yeah.
plus and more. Superior is there high. And again, I said average or higher average. That's where I'm at. I'm at a higher average.
I don't lead with
then-
that shit, and I don't sit around and think about it all the time.
And then, but here's the thing: I know people that are at 70 and 90. I know people that are at
Right.
some of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life. That I wish I could be like, have an intellectual level at 70 and below. But they are the hardest working people I've ever met in my life.
Right.
And some of the most fearless, no point intended, people I've ever met in my life. Higher than people that with like you are highly intelligent, but there's certain shit about you that I would not want. But then I know somebody, Miss Anya, whose IQ is pretty low, but what Miss Anya is willing to do is nowhere near what you're willing to do. She will go talk to anybody, anywhere about anything that she's selling to anybody.
Mhm.
We are like, man, how are we gonna do this? She'll be at a gas station talking to people about her shit. So her grind is more so than anybody that I have ever witnessed,
Yeah.
ever.
And that's what I'm saying.
It's embarrassing because she will talk to anybody about her shit. So again, if she sold insurance, she will be a multimillionaire, guarantee it.
And that's what I'm saying, because she has
Guarantee it.
And that's what I'm saying. I think people overvalue what that actually means. It just
That
means
part.
that I have a cognitive ability. That means I can be riddled with more social anxiety and all the other stuff that comes along with being a hyper self-aware of myself and my presence and my mind state at all times. It's a hindrance. And so, but people invest so much into these numbers like they mean something. And that's when I know I'm dealing with somebody who doesn't really understand how this stuff works.
Right.
So, all right, y'all. I gotta run. I gotta go pick up a kid from school. Fearless, you got this for the rest of the way, man. If I get back, I'll jump back on.
Actually, no, I'm out. I'm done myself.
All right.
No, yeah. Hit me back when you get back, though.
Okay.
But all right, though, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Miss Anya's about to do her thing now. So, all right, man. I will see you guys later.
All right. I'm putting in this thing, and we about to slide out of here. Talk to y'all later.
All right,
Peace.
deuces.